Ever since it feels like Sonic, we have like Uncharted, we have Sonic 2, of course. We have the Last of Us series. We're gonna have Borderlands, which doesn't even look that bad to be honest, considering it's Borderlands.
So, was I right? I don't know. I've been seeing stuff from Charlie saying this is the worst movie of the year. I've been seeing his other reviews constantly referencing the Borderlands movie and saying that the movie he's reviewing isn't as bad as the Borderlands movie. So, is it really that bad? I finally got down to watching it. And I came to about the halfway point, and then I took a break because I had to do something else. And I really didn't understand what he was talking about. But then, after finishing it, I can kind of see what he means, but honestly, it really isn't that bad. So, Borderlands, as a franchise entirely, frankly, is really just hit or miss. I guess they never miss, huh? Why would I say that? Why am I leaving that in the video? The Borderlands humor is really humor is subjective to begin with, but Borderlands really, if you ask me, is like 2014, 15-ish humor, especially like what probably the most well-doing Borderlands entry, Borderlands 2. If you ask me, that's like that. It can either be haha chuckle-ish or like really unfunny and like cringe-worthy. And frankly, this movie is no exception. I think the movie captured the vibe, kind of Borderlands perfectly adequately. It was pretty good representation of the Borderlands franchise, if you ask me. For example, Lilith uses the infinity gun or whatever. Aside from a few things, so the story of the movie, the quick plot is basically kind of completely accurate, but also a little bit different. So it has Roland, Claptrap, Lilith, Tiny Tina, Krieg, but they don't go through the same motions as they were going to in like Borderlands 2. For example, there is no Handsome Jack. Instead, we have the CEO of the Atlas Corporation. I'm not really gonna explain the plot that much because I don't really think it's that important. Honestly, like, this entire movie is just kind of you know, it's whatever, but I don't really think it's that bad. So our main character is Lilith, and the entire time I was wondering why she doesn't have powers. But okay, something this movie does do bad is, if you ask me, there are like a few fake out deaths, and it's completely odd why the movie would choose to do this. This is literally right before I stopped watching. When I continued, these things happened, and I was like, oh, I see what they might be talking about. For example, you know, Roland dies in the games. And in this movie, for no reason, he self-sacrifices himself. And you imagine that he is going to die because, again, like, kind of like the Transformers 1 movie. You know how things are going to turn out. You just kind of wonder how these things are going to fall in place, how they're going to do these stories. So Roland completely unnecessarily self-sacrifices himself, but then turns out he lives anyway. He survives what he does, which is completely weird. And then like two other characters nearly die too, but then they live in the end. And these things happen right back to back of each other. Like, it's really jarring. It felt like watching the last Star Wars movies, Rise of Skywalker. Another thing with like knowing how the story should be, Lilith doesn't have any powers, and you wonder why. Like, is she not going to have powers the entire movie? In a weird twist-ish, kind of. I don't know what they were trying to do. She does end up having powers. Like, at first they think another character has powers, but turns out it's Lilith that's the one who has powers. And here's where I'm going to start talking about a different topic. So I'm not going to be one of those, like, I don't know, like 2013, 14 gamer guys, kind of like, why aren't all women sexy or something. But when it's such an obvious over the top kind of aspect of the Borderlands franchise, and also like, you know, they wear it on their sleeve, it is slightly ironic, and especially with Moxie too. I feel like the best actors in this movie were Cate Blanchett and honestly Jack Black as Claptrap. So Cate Blanchett, Lilith, is good and all. However, I don't think she's as attractive as she should be. And the reason why I'm saying this now is that in the end, she is Lilith. She does have powers. She does fight. But kind of like Keanu Reeves in the fourth John Wick movie. You know, he's a bit old. He can't do everything. And Cate Blanchett really can't do that many things, because like she's not as young as she used to be. With Moxie too, with a character who's so obviously sexualized and like almost like and like hypersexualized and uses that to her own advantage, like especially with Moxie. I'm not really sure why they went that direction in not really making the same characters attractive like that. Another aspect of the movie, for example, sometimes when a series is being made into a different genre, the creators can kind of be over the top and really force a lot of references or like things into the new thing they're making. This movie kind of Borderlands into that area, into that zone. There are a lot of visuals that would be familiar to people who have played Borderlands things and like things that the players would be able to recognize. However, they're not really so ham-fisted, if you ask me. It just kind of borders on that. Another thing that kind of borders, and another thing that's people probably said is bad about this movie. The visuals. In the beginning of the movie, I thought the visuals were pretty alright. For example, you see Pandora and you see all of the landscape and all of the things happening, the racks, I think they were called, the flying birds, and the vehicles, those like driving across the terrain, and they look pretty good, if I dare I say. But again, halfway through the movie, for some reason the visuals shit the bed and things become a very obvious green screen, and then you realize everything around is flat and they're just in a big open flat green screen area and nothing around them is real. Everyone is on the same surface level, and then like the facade of all of the action is revealed. I finished the movie, come to credits, and I see this movie is directed by Eli Roth, and I am incredibly surprised. This movie's action wasn't really directed all that well, if you ask me. Yeah, that's about everything I want to say about Borderlands. I think this movie isn't necessarily worth your time. So it's max going to be 5, but I don't think it's as bad as people say. Seriously, genuinely, looking among the movies that, that we've reviewed this year, but the movies that came out this year, it genuinely for me is either Madam Web, that's the worst, or maybe even Joker 2, I'm not sure. Winnie the Pooh doesn't really count that much. But yeah, the Borderlands movie genuinely is not the worst movie that has come out this year. I don't know what people are on. It's not another W for the gaming movies, but it's not that bad. I think it's like 4. Yeah, 4 is all right. So here's the tier list. Here's Letterboxd. Check out Twitter if you want. And thank you guys for watching. Goodbye, everyone.